Joining us now, she's the head coach at Georgia Tech, a Georgia Tech Athletics Hall of Famer herself, fresh off an NCAA tournament. I speak of Coach AIleen Morales joining us here on In the Circle. How you doing, Coach?
Great. It's a Monday in Atlanta, and it's I think like 50 degrees, maybe pushing 50. So we'll take the sun out and the nice weather in January. So how important those days that we can get sun on the field. How important that is this time of year for us. So yeah, so excited. First day of classes for us. So just real excited to get rolling.
Let's kind of reflect a little bit on last year. Great year. You had 38 wins last season. Make the NCAA tournament. I know when we've had you
Yeah.
on in the past, that was the goal, is to get your alma mater
Mhm.
back into the program. Just when you look back at last year, what comes to your mind?
Oh, I mean, it was a record-setting year from a lot of different in a lot of different aspects of the program. Obviously, being able to take the team back to a regional and finally a lot of pieces just kind of fell into place and put together. Or the team came together nicely. But I think that when we got to the end of the season and afterwards, and we were able to reflect, I mean, there were some pretty impressive things that we did as we were going through it. We had no idea, which will be hard to match, I think. And so we got to change expectations to a certain extent. But I mean, we didn't lose a midweek game last year, which is kind of like was crazy. And so, we are, and obviously we were at a Gainesville regional and just played at a high level, and we're really excited to see the program get there. And now that's the expectation, right? And so as we move into this year, I think that you're not sneaking up on anybody, and that's kind of the message I had with the team when we talked on this weekend. When we were getting back practicing. It's you've earned the right to have teams respect you and to bring their absolute best every time you step on the field. And so that's now it becomes even more exciting and more fun because you're not sneaking up on anybody. Everybody's going to know what you got, and it's my best versus your best, and there's not ever going to be any kind of games where people take you lightly. So now that's changing that mindset and that mentality of, hey, let's get after it and let's compete our butts off and let's go even farther this year.
Was there a turning point last year where you felt, all right, yeah, this is a tournament team? Was it early? I mean, I know you felt good about it going into the year, but it's one thing
Yeah.
really going into the year. But was there a moment during the year, a game, whatever, when you're like, this team's different. This team we can do what we think we can do.
I think there was 2 points. Two, if I were to look back and like kind of point to two parts of the season, early on and the opening weekend we played well, and so we were like, okay, we've got some stuff here, but then we got into conference play and we went 0-6, actually 0-7, I think, in conference play to start off, and I was like, all right, are we going to bounce back? Are we going to be able to handle that? And part of that in that stretch, I think, was opened up with like Duke and Florida State back to back. And so we knew that we were going to be, playing some great competition. And we were in those games and we just didn't, close some of them out in those first 6 games for sure. And then I think really to me, the first kind of thing that showed the team and showed us that, hey, we can be really, really good was when we went to Athens and on the road and beat them in 5 innings. And, last year was last year, but, that was a huge win. I don't think our program had won in Athens since 2007. And so to have a road win, or 2008, one of those, against an in-state rival, against the rivalry of Georgia Tech was huge. And so I think that was a big thing because it was like we had gone through some tough opponents and hadn't got the results we wanted. And then we're there and we're in Athens and we're playing on the road and, a hostile environment. And we just lit it up. And so that was, I think, one for us and for the team to be like, oh yeah, we're good. We can do this, right? After kind of taking some lumps early on with some great ranked opponents. And then I think the second point was actually our series at Notre Dame, which we ended up losing the series. But I mean, it was just a heavyweight battle left and right. I mean, the runs that were, I mean, every game I think was decided by like one run, and we ended up losing that series in extra innings on a walk-off hit from them. And I think that was another point of like, hey, like we can play with the best of them. We can compete with the best of them. And collectively as a team, sometimes you got to see that. But losing in that setting actually kind of propelled, I think, the momentum through the rest of the year of like, we don't want to feel that again. We don't want to feel how coming out of that series was, knowing how close we were to taking that series on the road in South Bend. So I think if I were to pinpoint two things, it would be those points, because they were just really integral parts in the season, and when they happened in the sequence of the season, they were huge for momentum. And sometimes you learn a lot more from those losses, And so Notre Dame was a big gut check, and that kind of just changed perspective even more. Again, of like we are as good as we've been telling you, or the team is finally buying into like, oh yeah, we can play with anybody. We got this.
What was it like selection night? I'm assuming you were with your team, and
Yeah,
were you
yeah.
nervous, confident? What was it like? Yeah, I mean, because
Well,
you felt good. Everybody, I mean, I
yeah,
felt you were in, you were a lock,
yeah,
but you never
yeah.
know. Obviously, when you're in that
Mhm.
room as a team or as a coach or as a player, you just don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty. Plus, especially as it turns out, your name didn't get announced till late in the
Yeah, we
show.
were. Yeah.
So what was it like that night?
Well, I think, from the beginning, we felt very confident that our body of work warranted us being in. I felt like our RPI was strong enough. I felt like our quality wins, all those things matched up. But again, like you said, it's been 10 years. So our name ain't been called. And it's been, this is year 5 for us in rebuilding it. And so there is that piece of like, okay, you need to say our say our name, because we feel like all the data says we should be in. But again, until they say your name, nothing's guaranteed. And so uh, yeah, it was kind of that nervous excitement. And we kind of had an idea of like probably what some of the regionals we could go to, when you project it out. You guys are experts at that stuff, right? But so we kind of had an idea of like maybe Gainesville, maybe Tuscaloosa, maybe, some of these places that maybe Knoxville, as we're like thinking of what some of the options could be. And so as they're going through and you're like, okay, not that one. All right, could be this, in your head. But then there's the honestly, I don't think relief's the right word, but just the excitement of like, there we are, there's our name up there. And it just that, how excited the players were, how much, just the joy on their faces, and seeing them just be so excited for the opportunity. Because I know like everybody in that room from the moment I recruited them was, you're going to be part of bringing us back to, what Georgia Tech softball used to be, but putting your own mark on it. And so to be able to like, have them buy into that vision when maybe there wasn't proof of that, to then see them work and earn it, and then there be proof of it was really awesome. And so it was a great feeling. And then, and then it's like, all right, it's time to work, because you got games to prep for. But yeah, one of that's will be one of my favorite probably moments coaching for a while, right?
I bet. I mean, your alma
Yeah.
mater there, and I think it's just a great message. We live in this kind of instant satisfaction era, if you
Mm-hmm.
will. Everybody wants things now, now, now. I think it's a great example of hard work and patience paying off, and it's a great lesson for your
Mm-hmm.
players, not just on the field, but I would say life after softball. About like that things aren't easy. You got to work, earn for it. It's going to take time.
Yeah, I think that we a lot of the times as a society, right, we're in this instant gratification, and we want all these things, and we forget sometimes like, no, it takes a lot of work. And just because you want it and just because you put the work in also doesn't mean you get it, right? So it's like, you got to be strong enough, you got to be resilient enough to go through some of those challenges. Same thing at Notre Dame, or those games where you're like, man, we did everything we could, we laid it on the table, and we didn't get the win. But like, you can be okay with, what's the work I put in? I did everything I could. And so I think that was a huge life lesson, though, where it's like, man, they deserve this. They earn this. Our name better be on that dang on that dang board, right? It better be on one of these regionals. But um, you know, when you put in that much time, when you put in that much effort, and you get the reward, that's even more, satisfying. But you got to be tough enough to know that you're not always going to get that reward, and you got to, not throw in the towel because you don't get the outcome you want right off the jump. And so, just really proud of the team, and honestly the upperclassmen for going through the grind and continuing to come and show up and want to make the program better every day and every year.
The irony is you get sent to Gainesville, which is where your last game as a
Yeah, yeah,
Yellow Jacket took place. We've talked about this in
yeah.
the past. I actually was there. I called your last game against UCF
Oh
in
man, yeah,
2008. And here you
yep.
are 14 years later, you're back on the same field leading your
Mm-hmm.
alma mater as the head coach. What was that like when you stepped on that field? Was that kind of deja vu? What was the emotions like, or not emotions, but like your thoughts as
Yeah.
you went on that field?
I mean, it's definitely surreal, and it's like, life comes full circle. And when you're in sport, like so much of your day to day or whatever is like very tunnel vision, right? It's like, got this game, I've got this game. But like when you can like take a step back and look at it from a higher level and from a higher sphere or scope. It's like, man, this how like cool that this is where I ended my career. And I like am now in this different position as the head coach and get to come back, something with the program that I poured my heart and soul into, and these players put their heart and soul into it, get to come back and step back on the field in a regional for the first time with this program. And so there's definitely like some emotions for me of like, man, that like you couldn't write it up any better, right? And AIleen Morales in 2008, would she have ever thought that would be where she would be in 2022? Probably not, right? And so I think that's the beauty of sport, and that's the beauty of what we do. You can't always write those. You can't script those storylines up like that, but when they happen in that way, it's like, man, like I'm for sure supposed to be doing this. This is for sure, like all those things that just help you like enjoy the moment even more. And yeah, it was really surreal just to be back. Field's got some more upgrades since last time, but to be back in that environment with this team. And then that was one of the things I said to them when we practiced. It was like, I'm just honored to get to step on the field with you guys at this tournament, like, because I'm proud of the work you guys have done, and like, let's enjoy this.
Yeah, unfortunately, the weather did not cooperate. That was a wacky weather weekend in the
Mm-hmm.
state of
Mm-hmm.
Florida. I remember I was covering the Orlando region.
Terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was questions whether how long the region would extend. What do you hope that your returners take from that experience? What do you want them to take from that experience of being in a regional?
Yeah.
Because that's
Yeah.
huge. That could pay off
Mm-hmm.
this year and moving forward. Because it's one thing like, oh yeah, we try to get it to the tournament. Well, now you've been to the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Now the returners know that feeling. What do you want them
Yeah.
to take from that experience?
I mean, there's no substitute for experience, and you have to go through it, right? And I think that being there, them understanding, like, there is this inherent feel. You're inherently going to feel some level of pressure when you're on that field at that postseason because the stakes are just raised, right? And we can tell them all day it's just another game, but like that's still not how the human brain works, right? You've got to be able to regulate that. Well, they've experienced, so now they're going to be able to regulate those emotions a little bit better because they have done it before. Doesn't mean that they're not going to feel those emotions again. It means that you're going to handle it a little better. And that experience, of being in two rain delays. I mean, truthfully, we weren't in one rain delay. We didn't start a game and pause a game all year. And then we get to a regional and we start and pause a game and a winner's bracket game twice. So, what was the message and what was part of this fall is like preparing them more for adversity, because maybe that was a thing that we weren't as prepared for. And that's no fault of ours, but it was just the way our schedule worked. We never ended up getting into a weather pause situation. So again, I think things like that as well, gave us insight into like, okay, these are things we need to be more prepared for from a standpoint of like training that out, training some more chaos in and training some more chaos out. But I think that those hours when you get into those rain delays like that, I don't care who you are, that's challenging to navigate as you're in the middle of the game and then having to reset. So I think the big thing for us was like, we've got so much experience returning. Use the experience for the last year or 2 years to help propel us forward, and then also expecting to be, at a regional this fall or this spring, and then farther on.
I remember we spoke last year. You felt the next big step, the final piece of the puzzle, was improving the pitching.
Mm-hmm.
You felt you liked your position players, you liked the offense
Yep.
direction. It was the
Yep.
pitching to take that
Yep.
next step, and it did with Blake and Chandler Dennis in particular. 16 wins
Mm-hmm.
from her coming in. Speak of your pitching staff this year, because you bring Blake, you got Chandler, and the rest of the staff. Because that was a big piece,
Yeah.
part of the puzzle there.
Yeah, Blake and Chandler are a great 1-2 punch. 1A, 1B, I guess you would say. I don't know, depending on who you're playing, who's the A or B, right? But they do a great job of complementing each other, raising each other's expectations, raising each other's standards. I mean, they're competitive, but they're great teammates to each other, and so it's a really good dynamic in the bullpen. And then we've got Sophia Voiles returning, who threw some innings in the regional. Actually, one of the things probably for her, she grew up a lot. She was on the mound when we wrapped up the season with probably not the way she wanted to, not the way any of us wanted to. But that's some fuel for her moving forward to, grow into that experience and be more prepared, not more prepared, but be able to understand the moment more and train for that moment more. So we'll look to Sophia to throw a lot more, and as a compliment to them. And we brought in a freshman, Jaden Studebaker. She's out of Colorado. She'll get some innings, as well as Emma Mangini, who is a lefty for us. Didn't throw as much for us last year, maybe an inning or so, but we'll look to use her a lot more this spring. And Kinsey Norton, who didn't get as many innings as well. But I think those two, or those couple, specifically Emma and Kinsey, they'll develop. They did a lot of development last fall and this past calendar year, and so I think they'll be pleasant surprises and probably maybe sneak under some people's radar a little bit. So good. They balance out the rest of our pitching staff well, so we'll be looking forward to using them more consistently.
Do you feel you got more maybe depth there pitching wise? There you
potentially, yeah. I think preseason will give us more ideas of that. How we place things, how we match the bullpen up, how we use if we're using quick relief, middle relief, all those types of things. So yeah, I'm excited. We just got back into our team practice a couple of days ago, so it'll be probably ask me again in 3 weeks, and I'll have a better idea for you, Eric, because we'll have seen some more live pitching and hitting. But yeah, I'm really excited, and I was impressed with how they threw this fall. So I think that they're going to keep us in any game. The combination of these arms, and I'm excited about the progress and the maturity of Blake and Chandler for sure.
Offensively, hit 284 as a team last year. Returned a lot of hitters from that offense last year. Who are some of your leaders you're leaning on this year? Offensively?
Absolutely, Emma Kauf. She's she does an amazing job for us. She table sets, or she excuse me, she doesn't table set, but when she goes, we go. So if she's hot at the plate, we're gonna have a good day. We lose Trisha Awald, who has that's a big bat. That's a ton of production. We'll need a couple people probably to help step up and fill that role. So that's that'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But we've got plenty of athletes who can contribute. I'm excited about Mal Black, who going into her junior year. I think she was pretty hot early on in the season and kind of tapered off there towards the end, and she would tell you that too. But just she's been looking great, just offensively and defensively. So excited to see her kind of fill into her own, and there'll be some more opportunities for offensive production because of how the lineup's changing with Trish being gone. Bottom lineup will probably be similar with some, speed and good barrel control players. And, we're going to run again. We're going to try to do whatever we can to create havoc on the bases. So, we've got a couple of freshmen that came in. Paige Vukadonovich out of Iowa Premier Organization. She had an amazing fall, has really stood out. And so excited about her probably having some opportunities pretty early on in the lineup. And then we also have another catcher, Reese Hunter, a freshman out of Mojo, who's phenomenal catcher behind the plate. So, provide some ways to balance lineups and give people different opportunities. But we got a ton of experience. Even a lot of our freshmen got, a ton of the bats last year. And so I think that helps just from a standpoint of you got freshmen that get 10 at bats and you got freshmen that have 100 at bats. That's a difference, right? Yes, they're a sophomore on paper, but they're not a sophomore from an experience standpoint. And so we do have a good bit of sophomores with actual sophomore level experience. So I'm excited for them. And Jen's a great defensive shortstop. So just as she continues to anchor that infield for us, it's exciting just to see that core kind of come back and now have 2 more years together.
What's the key to building the chemistry? Because as you know, every team's different. Even though you've returned a lot of players, there are new faces on the team. What's the key to making sure they blend? It's up to the players? Do you tell the players? Do the players take it on themselves from that standpoint?
Yeah.
What's the key?
I think it's a combination. I think that what we see as coaches is practice and the environments that we control. But there's so much more to being a student athlete, so much more to being a teammate than the practice or the game setting of the weights. It's what you're doing outside of that. And they do a really awesome job of taking each other out to dinner, doing just team activities together. We try to create some team bonding activities, but beyond that, it's just go to dinner with your buddies, right? Go to dinner with your teammates. And I think chemistry is built through, one, through sometimes through adversity, but 2, just through getting to know people. And so I think the more they can communicate, the more they can spend time together outside of, softball practice, that just breeds better familiarity, and it's going to make you trust each other better. So we did some team stuff in the fall. We did like a leadership course down at Fort Benning, which was kind of cool. It was like went through like an ROTC course, which was challenging, but brought some different, perspective to them. And then we did just some like escape rooms, just different things, trying to keep it fresh and do different activities that, are somewhat competitive, but kind of get them in out of their comfort zone. And I think but the big thing is, they got to take ownership of where they want this team to go. We can lead y'all we want, but at the end of the day, if the locker room is led well by the players, then those are the teams that are extremely successful. Because when you get to that player-led mentality or model, then a lot of things are policed and a lot of things are managed by the players, and they understand that everybody's coming from a good place because they respect each other and they want to be successful.
Well, you're not going easy on them from a scheduling standpoint. Opening weekend, you're opening up with UConn, who won the Big East regular season title. You've got North Texas in that tournament that won CUSA and made it to a regional final in Stillwater. You got St. Francis, which won their conference championship. That's just opening weekend. I'm going to skip ahead here. You're hosting the ACC Big Ten Challenge. You got Wisconsin in a rematch from the regional in Gainesville. So that's going to create a little buzz there. You got Illinois in that one as well. You got Boston in Charlotte later in the year. Their Coach Waters done a great job. Penn State up and coming. You got obviously Charlotte in that tournament, as I mentioned. You didn't go easy on your team here. Just talk about philosophy scheduling wise, because as we'll get into, you got a stacked ACC league, but you're obviously challenging themselves and getting ready for the ACC with a challenging non-conference.
Yeah, I think that one, when you're building a program, they have to learn how to win first, and that piece of that I think is there, right? And now it's like, okay, how can we continue to push you out of your comfort zone, challenge you with great opponents who, like I said, I think we can play with anybody in the country. But the big piece there is like we have that experience level. So like they're at a point where I feel confident that they can, handle, a little bit maybe of a tougher schedule from a standpoint of we have more depth, we have the experience, and it's like, all right, how good do you want to be, right? Like, because for me, I think playing the best only makes you better. So those first 3 weeks are going to be challenging. Yeah, absolutely. But, hell, we went into ACC play and went against, two top teams right out of the gate. So it's like, we want to see as many good arms in preseason play to prepare us for what we're going to see in conference play. Because dang, Eric, there ain't an easy arm in our conference. So, the philosophy there is like, let's see good competition. Let's see great arms from an offensive standpoint, because that will help us be more prepared for what we're going to see when we get into conference play. So yeah, hopefully I'm not kicking myself 2 months from now or a month from now about this schedule, but I think that there's some great competition early on in the year that's going to help prepare us for a pretty tough and challenging ACC schedule as well. We don't ever get handed an easy ACC schedule, so we're and I don't think anybody gets handed an easy one, but we get the best of the best in conference play too. So it's part of that is to navigate and prepare them for that conference stretch, which will be challenging as well.
But it's something, again, it builds your resume. You're gonna have a strong schedule strength, and it's something that I've talked to other ACC coaches in the league. Is one of the things they're shooting for is to have as many teams host. And that was a big thing last year. Duke got to host for the first time. Clemson got to host for the first time. Florida State obviously has hosted. Notre Dame has hosted in the past. They were in the mix last year. Is that something that you all shoot for as well? I mean, you used to host when you were a player.
Yeah, I think that, the when I took this job, and one of the things that we've talked about as the vision from the beginning was we've hosted a regional, we've hosted a super regional on this field. Like, we want to do that again. It's happened before. And so, again, there's steps that you have to do to get to that, but that is absolutely one of the next steps that we're pushing for. And I think the way we've scheduled, if we can manage the schedule and handle the schedule, we're putting ourselves in a really quality position to maybe be in that conversation. And so, that's all obviously part of the vision and part of what we want next.
Well, you got a great home slate too. If I'm a fan, I'm just a softball fan in Atlanta. I'm getting
come on down.
Seriously, because I saw some of your games. I remember the Florida State game and other games. I mean, the environment that can make a big difference to your team as well, having that home field.
Yeah, we've got, I think, Clemson coming here. We've got Auburn coming to us. We have Georgia.
Virginia Tech, I
Gosh,
believe, is coming
Virginia
to you.
Tech. Oh Lord.
Might be the
Yeah, we
best home
got
schedule you've had
it's a
there.
pretty it's a pretty stout home schedule. And again, even with, like you said, with Buzz Classic, we got North Texas coming here. All those teams coming here opening weekend, the Big Ten, ACC Big Ten Challenge playing weekend. So, I mean, this is my plug for people to get their season tickets. If you're around the area, because this is a really I'm excited. It's probably one, like you said, the best schedule we probably put together. Outside of, I had a really good schedule 2022, but that I got ex-nayed. So it's been this
All
has
right.
been probably the best schedule I think that we've put together since we've been here. So excited about how the
Another,
team will proceed.
another one that jumps out to me. You're hosting Georgia Southern. I think you know that coach over there.
Oh yeah. We got Perk coming up. I talked her into that. Yeah. So, she's done a great job with that program in year one, and Perk's a winner, and they'll give us hell. I already know. So I'm excited to have her and have her back. Not really excited to have her back recruiting in the state, but excited that she's back in the game and did a great job last year. And so I'm sure they're going to be ready to roll and get after it. So yeah, that's going to be another fun one as well.
Yeah, that'll be unique to see her back on the field over there in the
Yeah,
kind of full
yeah,
circle moment for both of you
yeah,
there.
absolutely. We played her last fall. We worked that out, but it was a neutral site game. So this will be interesting to say the least, in a good way.
It's a good word. It's a good word. Couple last things nationally.
Okay.
Replay. You got to use
Mhm.
replay as you got familiar. What's your
Yep.
thoughts on instant replay? And I believe ACC this year, regular season, is that in play?
I don't want to speak for sure. I would assume it is. It was last year. I don't know if I haven't been up to
Okay.
date with if we are for sure doing it everywhere. But I think that at the end of the day, as a coach, you want the call to be right. Sometimes that means it doesn't go your way, and I think that the replay gives you that kind of added um confirmation that it is. Are there little kinks and stuff that needs to be worked out? Yeah. But I mean, I think that the goal of it is for us to get the call right, and so that the game isn't impacted by a bad call. And so to me, I'm a fan of it. The only thing I would say is if we could, make it not, or it could be, doesn't slow the game down. We want to make sure it's not like impeding pace of play, because I know that's a big thing. But I don't think I won very many challenges, so my record with that is not great. But if you got them in your back pocket, you might as well use them, right? So TJ could probably give you the stats on that. It's probably not good, but yeah, I think at the end of the day, anything that's trying to get the call right and try to so that the play is correct on the field, like why we're going to be in support of it. We want the right call to be made.
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't think I think being hard on yourself on the instant replay there. It's a little that's a little harsh there, but
I don't know. I don't remember winning very many. I think the ones I won was because the other coach challenged and they didn't get it. Like that was how. Oh, I was like, I won that one. The
it
ones that
counts.
I actually
Which
challenged, maybe
count,
one.
it counts
So
as a
yeah.
win. It counts as a win. One of the other things I want to ask you about is a former student athlete and now obviously a coach. Volleyball and women's soccer this year experimented with seeding 32
Mhm.
teams,
Mhm.
which is kind of try to create more balance in
Yeah.
brackets and parity and not be so quote unquote predictable. For example, your volleyball program, Georgia Tech, instead of maybe being bused to Florida for volleyball, they got to go to Texas, for example, something they
Yeah.
normally wouldn't go. Is
Right.
that something you think would be interested in from a softball standpoint? Would you like that from your standpoint, or do you like it the way it is?
Well, one, Michelle and her program. I mean, just the success they've had since I got here, just in watching them, and then the last couple of years, just I mean, so just amazing and like cool to see the success and what she's poured into that program, and to see like how great of a like how strong they are now. It's cool. I'm an avid GT volleyball fan. Like I'm a super fan, so I go to a good bit of the matches, and just super impressed and proud of her and what she's done, because man, it ain't easy being, and once you're that good, maintaining it. So um, I think the 32 is great. I think for softball, I think that needs to be considered, because there's too many teams that are close in RPI or are close in those rankings, and they're getting sent to another location just because it's closer. And I don't think that puts the best necessarily matchups out on the field. So I do think that That's something that softball should consider and be looking into. I think that, I mean, whether they are doing that this year, I'm not really clear, but something down the road, because I mean, at the end of the day, like, you want to have the best 8 teams at OKC. And, sometimes, as we all know, the seeding does play a huge role in that. And I don't think distance should be the reason why you send 2 very evenly matched teams to the same regional. So, and again, yeah, would GT volleyball have been sent to Texas had that formula not been? Yeah, probably not. It would have probably been in, the usual sites, Florida, Bama, whatever
Right.
SEC team is within a certain radius. So,
Right. Because I remember we were talking about the possibilities, and we were like, kind of, oh yeah,
yeah.
it's probably here or here.
Mm-hmm,
So,
mm-hmm.
I mean, I know there are some positives that come from that because you kind of know what might be coming. But on the other hand, it's
Yeah.
kind of like, man, we probably deserved a better draw.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
based on if you truly seeded it 1 to
Mm-hmm.
32. And I know in talking, and like I said, volleyball, women's soccer, it's an experiment. I think everybody else is kind of waiting to see what the feedback
Yeah.
is on that. But perhaps down the road we could see softball and baseball considering doing that if they get feedback positively from those sports.
Yeah, I would definitely be a fan. I think most coaches would, and big proponents of, like, it's postseason, like, there's no reason we can't rank this to 32 and balance it out better, not better, because I think, hell, anybody can beat anybody once you get there, but there's definitely some things with seeding
Well, it's a
that,
national tournament now. It's a national tournament. It shouldn't be
yeah,
treated
yeah,
like it's
regional, yeah,
regional. Where back in your day,
absolutely,
where I mean, I remember we talked about this, and when in the past when you come, you were a 4 seed. They put you as
yeah,
a 4 seed just
yep,
because they can bus you to Gainesville for
yep,
last
yep,
year. Like that's
mm-hmm,
insane. Like
yep. I think
I
one year, and I think one year when I was an assistant, I think we were at Knoxville Regional. It was us, Oklahoma State, uh, Tennessee. Is that it? Us, Tennessee, Oklahoma State, and who else? It was, and then like 3 of the teams were all within like some crazy, like,
right.
it was like, and I think Oklahoma State was the team that came out of that. They ended up going to the World Series that year, I believe. They got on that hot run.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, the seating does play a big deal.
Yeah, I'm still can't get over that '08 regional. It's one of the most stacked regionals
Yeah,
ever, like
yeah,
ever.
yeah.
There, I still have that shirt. Next time I see, I'll have to show you that shirt.
Oh
Regional.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
do have that
definitely.
shirt. All right, last thing. Obviously you mentioned a few weeks you get going live before you know the season gets here. What are a couple keys for this team to accomplish your internal goals?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, number one, they've got to, manage their expectations. I think when you try to make the moment be too big, then that's when you start to, get anxious. So I think, one, like, just the confidence, being confident in who we are, being confident in our training is huge. I mean, if we pitch well and play great defense, it's going to make the offense relax. So I think the big thing is just staying together, not letting, outside noise bother us, and just being who we are.
Well, Coach, we look forward to seeing your team upcoming season. But in the meantime, congrats on last year, on a
Thank
great
you.
year, and I know it meant a lot to you. And always thanks for coming on with us. You always been great to us when you've come on. Always appreciate you talking to us. Thanks for doing it once again, and hope to do it again down the road.
All right. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate your time.